Good evening, everyone, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I'm Simon from MRCA, which stands for Malaysia Retail Chain Association. You have heard this name or come across this name in a newspaper. Even today, MRCA jointly with a member called FusionX has made a hefty sum contribution to Kementerian Dalam Negeri in support for the frontliners who are braving the storm out there while we are keeping safe at home. Now, firstly, to introduce the man in the house, Stan the man. Has a vast, I'm sure he's a known figure to a lot of you here tonight in the room. He's the, just to keep it short and sweet, he's the founder and director of Iron Horse Asia. He has many years of experience in the retail and IT. Okay, and he's also right now our what they call vice chancellor for a division of MRCA called the MRCA Academy. Yeah, so he has been consistently contributing and also sharing his vast experiences and know-how in the retail. And also soon he is also an author himself, and soon he will be unveiling his new book in the market. So we look forward to that. So without further ado, let's bring Stan into the room. Thank you. Clap, clap, clap.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming in to join in this talk for an hour or so. But before that, Simon, thank you for the introduction. You kept this certainly very sweet and straightforward to the point. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be spending a bit of time on this particular topic, the coronavirus business continuity. But I think more important today, what's happening in the retail scene. In fact, just even before I came on board, I just heard on the news that J. Crew is actually going into bankruptcy. And there are a number of other soon to follow pursuit. What we are going through today is actually unprecedented. By the way, I have to be very clear here. The issue that we're facing today has got nothing to do with the business, that whether the business has done well or the business has done bad. But what's happening is that the surrounding factor, the pandemic, has caused a different kind of disruption. And so we kind of really need to rethink where we are and what we need to do. And that's the reason why I termed this tonight's talk as Physical Today, Digital Tomorrow. But there are also a few things that we need to remember. But before I do that, let me just backtrack a little bit because I want to give you some background to tell you where I'm coming from, because the word business continuity actually means a lot. Incidentally, whether Malaysia has a standard, yeah, Malaysia do have a standard of business continuity. In fact, I was one of the authors way back, where I worked very closely with Singh as one of the technical writers of this program, and Malaysia do have a standard, which is based very much on the UK and the US standard on business continuity management. However, if you ask an organization whether how prepared are you when you're facing a crisis, I think the problem is not many are prepared. And I'm going to share one case study afterwards as I go along to tell you, even in the world of so-called development world, in the US, we find that many companies are not really, even in the UK, many companies are not really ready to face challenges like what we're facing today. So let me go into the next slide. But before I do that, let me just give you a little bit of background on what I mean by business continuity. Just a couple of minutes. I don't want to spend too much time there because I think the focus is more on how we can come out of this, how we can move to the next steps, and how we can then make ourselves more relevant in what we are facing today. The business continuity is based actually on the ISO standards, yeah, the international standards and for industries and all that. So I'm not going to go too much into this, but just to give you an idea that there are various numbers, and some of you may be familiar. For example, like the ISO 9001 for quality management and the 1400 for the environment. Now, notice that when I list the industries at the bottom, I've underlined retail, if you can see that. Now, retail specific do not have an ISO standard. But what retail has is if you're in manufacturing, if you're in quality control, if you are in food processing, there are standards that you need to follow, all right? And obviously, if you're going to be using technology, then there are standards that you need to deploy. But I just want you to understand that there isn't a specific for retail or retail management for that matter. But there are various standards that governs this. And why do we look at standards? Because we look at standards because we want to align ourselves not only to be relevant so that we could compete locally and internationally so that we align. In fact, I think some companies, if I do remember, do have ISO 9000. And if you notice that I put it on the screen 9000 2015, it simply means that every 5 years you have to go for a recourse or revisit on your test to make sure that you have passed that. And the next one, of course, is 2018. And I'm thinking some will have already got it. Let's move forward. I just wanted to give you the background. So the setup organizations are like this. We have large organizations. You have the SME, SMI, which most of us are in today. We also have partnerships. We have single business owners. And of course, we have individuals that run business. Now, what I'm going to share with you afterwards in some of the structures will apply to all these different structures of organizations. Whether you are a large organization, you may be an SME, or you may be a person that's going to be running a single business, maybe even a pasamalam trader for that matter. Some of these processes will apply to you. The only difference is you are the one that's doing all of it. Whereas in large organizations, you have different segments. So let's cut through that. So business continuity management, or they call it BCM, it's led by senior management, and normally it's at board level, and so on and so forth. And then we call it business continuity planning. Planning is a process of how you tackle if there's a problem. For example, you could access your office. So how do you then manage that? What are the processes that the organization or the manager need to draw? So those are things which we deem as BCP. By the way, I'm not going to go too much detail into this because that's not my intent today, right? But just to give you a flavor of it. Then of course we have a thing which most of you may have heard called disaster recovery. Disaster recovery planning simply means it's a set of policy and tools that you develop in case when a system goes down due to an issue, due to a system failure, due to a crisis, or even human-induced accidentally, I like to say that. Then you need to move away your business somewhere else so that you can still operate from another location. So that's called disaster recovery planning. The BCP and the DRP comes under the umbrella of BCM. Just understand that, and let's not go into too much detail into that, okay? All right. Now, the reason why you need to have some form of continuity planning in your business is because there has to be a recovery process. You can't just sit back and say, nothing's going to happen. You need to be able to recover. You need to be able to restart with a short period of time. You want to be in an operational state and normalize the business. And in the same process, you have to look at risk management, quality management, and your operational management, right? Because if you move from your norm to the abnorm, what will happen is you are no longer dealing in the same environment. So you need to have a different mindset, and you have to make that change quite easily. And the word that I like to use here is resilience. Some of you got it, some of you may not have it. And by the way, don't worry about it, because I can tell you this, even some of the larger organizations in Malaysia do not have a complete set of what we call a true business continuity management in place. They have bits and pieces, so don't worry about it. All I'm trying to explain to you is that the word that you need to hear is resilience. So no matter what happens, you can withstand that adverse effect, the impact, or the negative effect to move forward. Just understand that, okay? And the other part, of course, is recovery. Notice when you recover your business from any kind of disaster or any kind of downfall, there are two areas. One, you got to look at what we call a critical function. Then the second one, you can look at secondary functions, so that you restore your critical function, and then you address the non-critical function as you go along. The whole idea of that is you are able to operate from no matter where you are, as long as you have those tools in place and processes in place, if that's in your planning. All right, I just want to give you that, and let's move forward. Now, someone asked the question, if I want to start in my organization, I have never done this planning, I've never done any of those. In fact, I don't even understand some of those terms. Where do I start? And I always say to organizations, charity begins at home. What I meant by that is, if you want to implement any kind of process or business continuity management, you need to understand some of this. For example, what I am now. This is very important because I'm coming to the one of the areas of why am I speaking this at this juncture about this? Because when you go forward, afterwards, when I talk about the real issues in retail business today, you will then tend to think, oh my goodness, now you see why I was making reference to this point. So this particular slide is important. So if you want to do somewhere, you want to start somewhere, you've got to understand your management and your business policies and controls. You've got to understand what are your core processes in your business and where the functions are integrated. You've got to look at your information, your data, who owns the data and what's the relationship. Some data can be shared, some data cannot be shared. So how do you manage that? You've got to understand that. You've got to look at all your business and systems risks exposure. A lot of us take things for granted, by the way. There are a lot of things happening in the world today on security and cybersecurity and all that. You probably heard that many times over. That's one of the areas you need to understand where you need to protect. Your access, your controls, your functions. What are the limitations? You need to then look at your contracts, your business contracts, your decision-making points, and your third-party engagement. Very, very, very key. Because when disaster happens, some of these are compromised. You've got to look at the internal and external business infrastructure, okay? You also got to look now, you see I'm coming to the people. Now you're going to look at what we call the personnel, from the corporate to the senior management to the operational management. By the way, let me stop you a little bit. Whenever I talk to organizations about BCM and understanding how we implement, they always have the notion that this is an IT project. It is not an IT project. Please get that off your mind. Business continuity management is a business project, must be owned by the top management, the middle management, the operational management. All right, so just get that very clear. Then now you see I'm talking about IT manpower profile management. In other words, now I'm talking about very specifics because they need to look at systems and processes for alignment. Now we're looking at systems that support your business, right? Your POS systems, your head office systems, your supply chain management systems, for example, your delivery systems, your warehouse management systems. Those are the things I'm talking about. Now I'm looking at third-party engagement, your service providers, your business associates, and your suppliers. If you understand that, then you can start from somewhere to say, now I can start planning my BCM in my organization. But you cannot just go and say, I copy somebody's book, make my changes, cut and paste, and put my company name, I got to, no, it doesn't work that way. So please be very alert about this. I'm covering this because this is very key. In all that you do in life, in your business, you got to have visibility, you got to have availability of information, you got to have integrity, particularly if you're a large organization, a mid-size where there are compliance and regulatory issues. You got to ensure you have integrity, that you met your preparedness of how you need to deal with things should anything happen, whether it's partial or total failure, and of course, last but not least, your continuity. Let's move on. Why we do that? Because you need to understand, you got to look at from a policy perspective, what can you protect? How do I protect and how do I manage that? And last but not least, how good is my administration and all that, right? So just not to cover too much into detail, I'm going to give you some background there. Now, in all organizations, this is the biggest problem. I've been to many organizations and I work with many organizations, small, big, multinational. These are a number of things. When you have an issue in your business, you need to be able to recover. You need to be able to reboot your processes. You be able to restore everything that you need to do, and then make sure you can run your business, the 4 Rs. But it's easily said and done, because sometimes when I talk about the 4 Rs, if I look at management, here's my issue. Sometimes management come and go, there are different habits. It's not easy to get everybody to think along the same line. Messaging becomes a problem. The culture of the organizations, if you have not driven this before, you must make sure that the culture in the organizations are streamlined. If not, when disaster happens, it's going to be helter-skelter. When I look at technology, I'm looking at system process alignment. Ensure that whatever you have done, that make sure your systems are aligned with your business process, right? Don't just have good systems and good business process. If they're not aligned, you cannot have agility in your organization. You've got to make sure that what are the configuration? How do you set up a business? This is one of the challenges most organizations face today, is how you set your targets and configure that in your entire process. Question is, how do you then deploy all that into your policies and methodologies, and how do you execute that? That becomes an issue, right? So these are some of the multifaceted problems in organizations. By the way, it happens today. It's going to happen tomorrow. But you need to be aware of this. Now I'm looking at the framework of infrastructure, your systems, your networks, and all that. That comes last. All those are different layers. But the other layers are very, very key. So in order to run the 4 Rs, you must address all these issues in your organization. Yeah, that has been said, because some of this is from experience, by the way. It's not easily done, and you can say, all right, I'll do it tomorrow and go. No, because people come and go, so you need to be aware of that. Move on. I'd like to ask this question. If I ask you today, what are the disasters that happens in organizations? How many can you think of? Chances are, when I first thought of it many years ago, I thought of maybe 4 or 5, fire, floods, and other natural disasters, for example, things like that. But if I show you the slide, by the way, I do want to click one by one because of time, so I'm going to just flash everything in one go in the screen. Look at all the issues that businesses face today. Silent wars, cyber attack, your closure of your business, closure of your suppliers, resignation of the CEO, loss of business opportunities. Oh, by the way, disgruntled employees, big one. There are many cases here I can share, but because of time, I can't. Strike, your failure of your services, hackers, sabotage, natural disasters, floods, fire, theft. You lose your contract, you lost your distributorship overnight. Economic conditions, system failures, environmental disasters. You lost part of the data that is leaked out to other organizations, or someone has hacked into your system. All these are major issues in organizations today, right? Look, there are many. And by the way, I didn't forget COVID. You must remember. Look at the small black box where the word fire and theft is. COVID is there. That's just to mention that I happened to put COVID just recently, just to let you know. But you could also understand that from an insurance perspective and from a perspective of your losses, you look at risks. And there's a very simple formula about risk. If you look at risk on top, it equals exposure times frequency. It means if I stop my business today, I'm going to lose 10,000. But if I'm not operating for 7 days, I'm actually losing 70,000 per se. By the way, this is a top line. It's just to give you an indicator, because sometimes insurance will ask you, what's your risk exposure? You can say, well, I'm down for 7 days. I'm losing by 70,000 now, because each day it makes about 7,000. And then you can look at the threat on the right-hand side. If I don't know whether I can move my mouse, you can see. You can look at all the threats against this. Then you can look at the vulnerability at the bottom. This too has got a cost factor and a time to recover. Any kind of disaster you face here, slowly I'm going to come to the COVID disaster part, but I'm going to give you a broader picture first. Okay, so I'm going to zero in shortly into another area. So cost versus time, and you can look at the vulnerability times the impact. Don't worry about those formulas down there. All I'm trying to explain to you here is that when you look at disaster, by the way, each disaster has a different take. You can't use one to deal with everything. It doesn't work that way. Each disaster is different. So in your planning in organizations, you get to look at various kind of disasters. No one ever thought 9/11 will happen. No one ever thought, after the Spanish flu, no one ever think that this will happen today. Look at COVID. I mean, unprecedented results in the world that nobody would expect that. It's taken the world by storm, right? But if you tell somebody in December, we're going to have this, let's be prepared. People think you have just drank too much and you're gone out of here. Look at all the disasters here. When you have this kind of disasters, there are 5 areas you have a problem with. Number 1, you will have strategic consequences. You will have financial consequences. You have legal consequences. And you have operational consequences, and you have reputational consequences. Reputational consequences could possibly also mean that if you lose a distributorship, like I know one particular retailer, I won't mention name, overnight they lost a particular brand which they were marketing so much, and suddenly they just pour it off, and impacted them in a lot of ways, because now the customer says, well, what do I do now? They said, I don't know. Overnight I lost my distributorship. Right? I won't mention him so much. So these are some of the things we need to understand the impact of it. The idea is you must understand when you look at consequences, always look at the outcome. Always look at the outcome, what the outcome will be, and then you manage that. There's some case studies I'm going to talk about shortly as we go along. So just food for thought. So we thought that if you don't have any kind of planning, you do not have any kind of organizational, structural thought process in your business, that I'd be able to recover if something happens to me or something happens to the business, or whatever the cause may be, the effect may be, I'm able to pick it up and make it a home run. If you do not have that, the end is going to be something like what I've written at the bottom. The results will be like the wind. You can feel the adverse effect and the impact, but you do not know which direction it came and where you will go next. So just remember those, the food for thought, yeah? Okay, let's go into this. Next one. Now, these are the worldwide known disasters. Coronavirus, SARS, A influenza, H1N1, Zika virus, Ebola, Spanish flu, 9/11, I mean, enterprise mess-ups. There's so many, and the list goes on and on and on and on. You hear about it every time. But let me just draw attention to coronavirus. Does coronavirus has an impact with any of the disasters you've seen at the bottom? Can you think of any of those that are close to coronavirus? What's happening today? Your guess is as good as mine. The closest I can think of will be maybe Spanish flu, but that happened way back because none of us felt it. But more than 500,000 people lost lives in this kind of Spanish flu pandemic. We didn't feel it, so we really do not know the impact of it. Coronavirus is very close to Spanish flu. But one of the disasters I kind of want to zero in a bit is because, I'll tell you why. It's this one here that I kind of always talk about, is the 9/11. Let me share with you what happened in 9/11, all right? Just so you understand why I picked 9/11, because the story goes afterwards. I'll save that for a little bit. Watch what happens. In 9/11, there were multiple disasters. Like today, in the coronavirus, there are multiple disasters. Let's examine what happened. 1, aircraft crash into the building. 2, building on fire. 3, collapsing a building, both towers, the north and the south tower. Loss of businesses. Loss of business data, systems and physical data. Loss of critical documents, contracts, etc. Loss of company and personal values. Lost of family lives, dependents. Lost ability to conduct business and business with partners. Displacement of corporate offices and infrastructure. One other incident that happened here, which, can you think of what I may have missed in this particular? I've listed 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. There's one that I missed. You know what that is? Anyone? Oh, I wish I could be an open forum, we can have a discussion, but the one that really caused this was the terrorist attack. That was only one disaster, the terrorist attack. But in that attack, look at all the other disasters that happened. So the view is this. Please remember that when you are in a disaster mode, like we are in today, there will be many breaches, such as privacy, customer security, non-disclosure agreement, data, values, etc. Everything will be compromised. Many years ago in Mid Valley, there was a fire. I won't mention this, the department store. I won't mention any of those because of, I just want to be very open, but just tell you what the story was. It was a fire. The firemen came in, they put out there was a small fire, they put it off, they left. When the owners went back to inside, they found a number of things that were missing. So the question is, oh, by the way, when the fire happened, security was compromised because they had to turn off all the electricity. So cameras were off, many things were off. But when the owners went back, the staff went back, they found out a number of things were missing. So who do you blame? Do you blame the firemen? Or do you blame somebody else? Do you blame, excuse me, I'm not being rude here. Do you blame the staff, or do you blame anybody who's taking advantage of? So this question is, my take here is it's compromised. So when there's a disaster, your business will always be compromised if you do not have things in perspective. Just remember that, particularly in areas where security is very, very, very key. All right. So here, let me show you the building. I went there I went there in 2009, almost 9 years later. The 2 blue circles where the Twin Towers were. This is what the picture. Let me remind you what happened. When 9/11 happened here, they found out only 10% of the companies had some form 10%, 10%. You're talking about the US right now. 10% of the company were ready, some kind of business continuity. Unfortunately, out of that, only 2% were ready, and one of them was the bank. I won't mention the name of the bank, it's a German bank, but the Japanese bank had some issue, which I'll come back to you afterwards. This is the pictures I took 9 years ago, but this is not the Twin Towers. This is the Tower A, Tower B at the back. Look at 9 years, they're still digging. They haven't completed. They do not know the depth, how much, what is connected. Because of this, most of the buildings in the US now have got up-to-date maps. They've got up-to-date facilities. They knew where the break points of the buildings are, because when the terrorists attack, they attack a certain point of the building so that it would drop. That was the target, and they achieved the target. So here, now all the buildings in US top buildings, particularly New York, I'm not sure about the other states, everyone has updated. No, look, if the building was on fire, if the building was going to be collapsing, you think the firemen will go up, knowing that the building is going to come down? Yes, saving lives is very key. Oh, by the way, when you talk about business continuity management, the number one priority is always saving lives. Number one priority. That's the golden rule, all right? Another picture. 9 years later, look, they hardly scraped the surface. I was very surprised when I went there. Yeah, because part of the management study was to look at 9/11, so I went to look at this pictures here taken. This guy, this flag where the American flag is, it's one of the hotels which is facing, imagine they're on the right and the left-hand side where the Twin Towers were. When the first tower was hit, they immediately make the right call. So in a disaster, you must always make the right call. And the call was, they told all the guests to move away a mile and go into ensemble in the church at the back, far back. And they were all safe, by the way. I'm not going into too much of detail of that. Look at this, still on the other side of the road. This is where the Twin Towers were. By the way, the buildings at the back are Tower A, Tower B, so I'm not going to go too much into the detail, right? So you can imagine, it has just literally took everybody by storm. It's nothing like the pandemic, because it didn't happen worldwide, but it impacted. What happened after that? The travel became so difficult, and you know, it was not easy to go to the US afterwards. It was very, very difficult, right? Because everything changed, the lifestyle changed, not lifestyle, the way we handle things changed, the way immigration deal with things changed. Move on. This is very, very key. When you're in a disaster mode, time to call out, time to respond, and time to make sure that you make the right call at the right time. I mentioned the Japanese bank. Because the call came in late, 252 people lost their lives. Okay, I'm not going to mention names, all right? Because I just can't. That's what happened. Making the right call is very important at the right time. So we're in a disaster mode. Learn from this. We're going to come to the other one shortly. French mineral water bottle, I can't name names very quickly. This one, again, they are in a disaster. You know, they were making $7.34 billion worth of US dollars selling mineral water worldwide. It's a small French green bottle. I won't mention names. I can't mention names. And then 12 people died drinking this water. Why? When this happened, I don't know why. The French management team went off to Scotland, went into the hotels, in one of the hotels in the castle, and started to talk about, what happened? You know, they scrambling for information, because in the meantime, the press is waiting. Look, when you have a disaster, if the press is waiting, the first thing you need to do is quickly make whatever you declare you want to make declaration, make it first. We're not sure, we're investigating it. This is what happened, we'll come back to you. Done. You cannot keep the press quiet, because the more you keep quiet, things will become, rumors comes in, everything will happen, and you're going to have a problem. By the way, what happened was they used benzene. Benzene is made out of crude oil. It's also used for rat poisoning. It's also used for in detergents to clean. Unfortunately, on that day, the guy who was mixing it made a wrong mixture, and there was some residue left. And when they added the water in, it became poison, so people died drinking the water and got sick of it. So finally, when they got to it, it was too late. In the meantime, remember one of the other rules. When you're in disaster mode, competition will get up immediately, and they will try to cut you. Number one, Volvic came in. Evian came in. And today, this French mineral water bottle is still around, and they're lucky if they make $30 to $40 million a year. They still run. I mean, I drink it. I like it, but unfortunately, that's what happened. When you're in a disaster mode, it is very, very difficult to come back up again if once you're down, all right? Next one. Quick one, Panadol. Panadol happens is good because Panadol is where when they had a problem with one of the manufacturing batch, they quickly told people, please, if you're sick taking that particular batch, go to the doctor, we'll pay your medical bill. Please return it, we'll replace it. Everything fine. They came out first before it became a public knowledge. They came out first and told paracetamol. What happened in the end? Today, everything is hunky-dory with Panadol. I get a headache, what do I take? I take Panadol. See what I mean? They have built it very well. I won't cover this. This was a hair product, which I won't mention it because it's very key. You will know this. Big time hair product. They wanted to launch, but because there was a problem, they have totally delayed the launch. And in the process of not launching it in time, they lost $1 billion. In the meantime, competition woke up. By the way, when they finally found out, they actually had the solution, but it was buried 15 years ago in their office. Auditors took a long time to discover. And why? Because of resignation. People come and go. Over time, all the information was forgotten. It was no problem. So remember, when you're looking at business continuity management, some of these things, you need to make sure that you have it in place. All right, not too much time. Now let's look at coronavirus. What is the impact? We have tax challenges. We have business operability issues. We have insurance claim issues. We have rental issues. We have supply chain management issues. We have lockdowns. We have sales issues, revenue, receivables, payables. We don't even know whether they can fight. Maybe some of the competitions are doing well. We have distributorship agreements because don't forget, we also got, some of them are franchises here. You know, whether you're running a retail, you're running a restaurant, or you're running some of the franchises. You have economic conditions to deal with. You don't even know where your data is accurate. You need to talk, you need to negotiate. You don't have that thing in perspective. You may even have closures because sometimes you have, let's say, franchise business and the principal is saying, look, I can't function anymore. Or my central kitchen is just can't manage because I got no supplies coming in, right? So all these factors are issues. And sometimes when you have this kind of disaster, in particular coronavirus today, you find that there are people who are opportunities. They will want to go and make the few quick fast buck. So you need to be very, very careful. I'm going to talk about it shortly afterwards, all right? Same thing, cost versus time, threat versus vulnerability and impact. Those formulas don't change. But these are some of the things I can think of. By the way, work from home. It sounds very good. I don't know whether it's work from home or work at home. So which is which? So the productivity level is diluted. You're not going to get the same level, although it feels good that, oh, my people are working from home, but it sounds very nice. Honestly, some people tell me that they're more busy at home than they were when they were in the office. But I should think not, no, because the office should have been doing more than in the home, right? Because home, you'll be doing other things as well. And so anyway, that's my opinion, huh? But I'm just telling you these are issues. So let's look at some of the COVID-19 issues. Number one, pandemic timing and uncertainty of duration of the lockdown. We do not know how long the lockdown is going to be, although we know May 12. But listen, this was hindsight knowledge. When we first had the lockdown in March, nobody had the idea how long it's going to be. Number two, inability to generate income. Big problem. Collection, billing, and expenses. Partial closure, and in some areas, full closure because I just can't operate, unfortunately. Loan repayments and office space rentals. These are some of the problems. Moving target on timeline. You know, you can say that I can plan something, but because of the lockdown, at the moment, I'm facing what we call moving target. All right, just bear with me. Thank you very much. Inaccessibility to business information. My servers on the office, I can't connect. I'm not sure what my IT guy is doing, but I'm very slow. And incidentally, I'm going to let you know, one of the areas working from home is that if you use the home internet, your last mile is always never ever secure, right? Because if you do what we call connectivity, you want to make sure these are what we call endpoints. Before you work in the office, now you're working at home. So your endpoints have shifted. Your data points end data points have shifted. So you want to be very careful that you have security proper tied up. Otherwise, you're going to have issues, particularly with the banks and big organizations. Customers and communication messaging. Listen, I'm going to tell you this. This is one of the most important factors. If you notice what Branson did, Richard Branson, when he was shutting down his Australia business, he wrote to all the suppliers, he wrote to all the customers and explained to them what happened one by one. Today, I am a member of a whole number of loyalty cards and this and that. Up to this point, I have not received a single letter or information from any of my customers, or rather, not customers, from my principals or service providers or cards that I hold. So I said, not sure what's happening. Listen, in times of trouble and issues like that, because if you change your business format, in one of my slides, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more, you need to make sure your customers are close to you. Because if you keep them informed, let them know what's happening, let them know what's changing, they will be following you, chances are. Maybe not all, but at least a bunch of them will be following you, right? Because that trail is important. But if you don't tell them anything at all, they have no idea what's going on. Very key. E-mobility, number 9, work from home and dilution in productivity. I just mentioned that. Your number 10 issue, project and services, project deliverables. If your commitments, your supplies to deliver, your supplies to come in, how are you going to manage that? Unfulfilled orders, some partial, some full. How are you going to manage that? Your raw materials dependency from local overseas, particularly if you're buying from overseas, everything is a lockdown at the moment, and many, many, many countries out there affected. Raw materials dependency from local overseas issue. Manpower, full-time and those working in projects. At the moment, projects are standstill. You guys need to have manpower. This manpower have been trained, and they're managing the projects. But because the project is not moving, you have expense on your hands. What do you do with it? You got to think about that one, right? Staff salary, related payments and projects, number 14. Because projects are now on, you can't pay, so how do you handle that? And if the project suddenly comes on board, what do you do with it? Overseas payment on Forex exchange. At the moment, the US rate is through the roof. Unable to utilize assets to generate income. Because right now, certain things are locked down, you cannot move. Your assets cannot move. But because your assets cannot move, you cannot generate income. If you're an event management company, what about the sponsorship that you receive from things that are coming in? How are you going to manage that? The contracts are signed before the lockdown. Travel restrictions and overseas startup expenses. You can't go overseas, you have overseas offices. You have government-related agency assistance. Now, this one I'm going to be very careful. It's very nice to hear our beloved Prime Minister said that, oh, we're going to get help, and there are going to be funds created. But you must always have in mind that if that comes, that's a bonus. Work on other strategy, please, because if that is going to be a dependency, you're going to have an issue, right? Legal agreements, deliverables, you have contracts to fulfill. And what happens to all that? So these are some of the challenges that I listed out in the COVID-19, taken up from the other slides that maybe we need to address. You need to address this, okay? But we can go on. But let's move further. I like this idea about Weiqi. This particular Chinese word is very key. Why? Because within calamity, there's always this opportunity, right? Weiqi, I hope I'm saying it correctly. The old norm versus the new norm. The question is, where do you want to go today? And what is your game plan today? Well, look at this particular, this is an interesting street light with all this red number everywhere. You don't know which light to follow, where to go. A lot of us are confused like that because we just don't know where to start. Because I can't move in my norm at the moment. My norm is completely blocked. What do I do next? How would I then move out of it? Let's examine. Okay, let's look at this and see whether these are true. I talk about the facts, I talk about the fiction, I talk about the fears and the facts. Let's see. Number 1, do nothing and just wait for everything to stabilize. That's a dreamland, huh? That's fiction. Don't believe that. Wait on government handout, bailout, and see my business through. That's also a fiction. Cut all my expenses out during the lockdown and pick up afterwards. I think that's a fiction too, no? I will be all right. I have very, very good friend, dependable staff who understands me. I'm not sure, because everybody needs to bring food on the table. So while you have dependable staff, you need to be very careful too. That may not be true. Everyone is going through the same dilemma, and so we're all together. Yes, we're all in the same boat. That's a fiction too. You have to do something about it. Number 6, my landlord supply service providers will understand if I cannot pay them now. Yes, they do, but they still want your money. That's also a fiction. I can borrow money anytime and raise funds from banks, trusted friends. I found out very difficult that all my trusted friends disappeared. For me, it happened to me. Okay, I'm just kidding. But I can tell you this, that they all are also going through the same trouble. That's also fiction. This one I like very much. Keep praying and hoping that all will go away and hope for a miracle. Unfortunately, I cannot answer anything because I believe in miracles. So I leave it to you to think whether you want to sit in one corner and keep praying. By the way, God helps those who don't help themselves. So I won't go too much. Okay, this is you. You have to think about that one. If you keep praying in one corner and hope everything happens, I don't know. I'll leave it to you. Number 9, I'm very worried that I will lose everything. That's a fear. Not sure whom to turn to. What will happen to my business, staff, and customers? That is a fear. My customers will surely not pay my outstanding, and I also cannot pay my suppliers. That's also a fear. But number 12, I think is very important. This is where you need to now move away from that zone of fear, zone of fiction. You need to come out of it. Number 12. I will review all options available to me and discuss with my core team on possibilities. That's a fact. I will have an open conversation with my staff, principal suppliers in an honest manner. Tell them exactly what's happening. Let them know the good, the bad, and whatever is going to be ugly. Let them know. And that's a fact too. I will schedule to speak to my landlords, banks, and consult my lawyers as well. That's very important. That's a fact. I will check my options in raising funds from every source available to me. That's a fact, right? I will disrupt my business model to reshape, reinvent, and re-strategize and build upon. And by the way, that's a fact too. I will take desperate measures. I like the movie Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. One of the things the State Secretary said was desperate measures in desperate times. And I think this is very, very important. So sometimes you have to take desperate measures in this unprecedented times, right? And perhaps join hands with other competition. Sometimes you don't want to fight with the competition. Keep your enemies close to you. Keep a competition close to you. Work with them. Maybe you align with them and complement them and each other. That's a fact too, because you need to survive. The idea is not survive. Look, in any kind of disaster, survival is given, right? But what you want to do is you want to come out of it as a winner. At least break even, make a little bit, not a whole bunch, survive through the period. That is your goal, right? Let's move on. I will explore and use newer technology to support and maximize my new business model. Very, very good. And that's a fact too, right? I will communicate with all my customers to let them know what we are doing next. Now, this is something that I don't know what's happening, but I get, I get very concerned about people not being communicating. Messaging is very important. I will examine various multi-channels to boost my business and consult others for visibility. Very, very good. You need the time to mentor, get mentoring. I will not give up despite the challenges and will strive forward in the absence of some of my staff. Some people may go, but whatever you have, keep close to them, be open, and fight with what you have. That's all you can do right now, all right? Here's what I like to do. This is what I call business as unusual. Still BAU, but it's business as usual, but this is business as unusual. There are 3 components here I'd like you to understand. While we look at the prior is where, the red color prior is where you were at that moment before. Now you have to be a change agent. Like it or not, you have to be a change agent. It's not about being constant. You have to think differently because there has to be a big, what we call the green one, cultural shift. During this time of the lockdown and the MCO, I put MCO as a guide, but during this so-called soft period or hard down period where you cannot move, this is the time to think about, you really need to make a cultural shift. And you need to be in change agent as to what you can do different that will at least enable you. And there are a few examples I'll share with you afterwards as I go along, right? And then be ready on the post. That's your new beginning. So in this business unusual, there are 3 stages of transition. One is your current, one is what you need to do and test it, make sure it works, and the next is then after that. But in all that you do, please remember the 4 pillars, the yellow color. You must have flexibility, you must have risk tolerance, you must have innovativeness, and you must stress tolerance. These 4, you must make sure that you cover them, all right, in all that you do. Because if I have to change something I'm not doing now, I need to make sure that I'm able to survive because that's my new territory. It's new uncharted waters, but I still need to steer the ship. That's important, all right? So these are things that I need to share with you on this unusual. Move on. Here are some of my change essentials, I call it essentials. Number 1, maintain a team focus in operational business and the results. Recognize the realities of change and its impact on your new business. Identify the strength of your change competencies. Very important. By the way, the staff that you have at the moment may not have the same talent or the qualification to handle newer things. Take chance, but if you need to do other things outside from external, do that and get that going because change also means that what do I do with my talent, staff talent, okay? Number 4, learn to apply new tools, communication to resist the retention of your core team. Successfully lead your team through every change in the step. You must lead because untouched waters are different. Always recognize change without losing your focus and the directions in uncharted waters. Very, very important. This is how I see it. Okay, this is very important. Point number 7 is very important. This is how I see it, but the team may not see it that way. They may say, and this is how really we see it. You must take away that hardness of being a boss. No, I'm right. Sorry, that's the way. No, you can't do that. This is how I see it. This is how they see it. And let's see if we can recognize the grounds to move forward. Because sometimes in issues like that, the less important person may give you the most advisable thoughts. Yeah, always understand that. Number 8, understand the reaction or change from your team and operations. Please understand that because they are going to be on the ground. They are doing things differently, so they may share their frustrations as well. Number 9, very key. Uncertain skill, but kill this curiosity. Do not hang on if you do not have something. If the skills are not there, kill the curiosity straight away and say, if this is the new model we're going to work. So what skills do we need? And align that. And please always be conservative and maneuver until you reach the gate. Your model has to be tried different ways, right? There's no one size fits all, please. And always understand your business drivers. Your business drivers will change from your current to the new. Please recognize that. Number 10, be completely open and establish your business drivers and use technology to drive your business model. Good. Here I'm talking about, most of you are familiar with this. Very quickly, I'll tell you why. If you ask me today, in a standard retail setup, you have strategy department, you have merchandising department, you have sourcing department, you're buying, you have marketing department, you have distribution department, you have supply chain, you have store operations, you have customer service, you have inventory management that creates all inventory and does all that, and you have credit risk management, your accounting. I don't have to worry about this chart. You know why? Because when I look at this chart, I just look at 4 key areas, and the 4 key areas are here. Number 1, that strategy is under the corporate management. My merchandising is under my vendor management. I put under my vendor management. My distribution is under my inventory management. And my store operations, my customer service, all that is under my operation management. See, I slice it in 4. That means I take the entire business, I slice it in my 4 pillars, and I work within the 4 pillars and see what I need to do different now. All right? I'm just showing you this because time doesn't permit me to go into the details. I'm just sharing this with you. Move on. Business as usual now is this. Before you can make a change, you could understand all these perspectives. Number 1, you need to be able to make sure that you understand your business collaboration at the moment, your current scenario. You got to make sure you tailor your allotments, for example. You understand your demand challenges at the moment. You understand your inventory reducing and making sure the risk is covered. You understand your customer demand, your consumer demand. You understand the replenishment life cycle of your push and pull. You must understand the time to market, the trendiness. This goes everywhere across, whether you are in retail, you're in food. You want to deliver excellent services, your excellence in your services. And you understand the psychographics of merchandising. It's a huge word. Let me just break it down. Understanding psychographic merchandising simply means you're taking something and you're taking against a lifestyle. You're taking a merchandise, could be a food, against the taste of a person or a person and you marry to. So lifestyle come into play. That is what it means by psychographic merchandising. So small word, not a big deal. If you have this, and I hope you have this, and I hope that you have at least understood some of this, because if you haven't been doing this or understanding this, then it's difficult to move to the next level. Why? Because now I need to go to my business unusual. By the way, when you change business landscape, it brings newer complexity. Please understand that. Number 2, whether it's a blue ocean or red ocean strategy, everyone is in the same boat. Some people will come and tell you, hey, don't go here because it's a red ocean at the moment. Forget about red ocean. Forget about blue ocean. We are all in the same boat at the moment and we are facing the same battle. We are not facing different battles because you have to do things differently. That's all. What fits and what fits your business, right? Number 3, this is very important. Currently, there are no business experts for COVID-19. Let me make that clear. There are no business experts for COVID-19. If anybody come and tell you that we can make this happen for you, we can do this for you to increase your business, we can do this because COVID-19, we are, please, you need to know where you are, all right? if I take back another example, remember in 2000 and 1999 when we had the Y2K, if some of you may remember, if you're as old as I am, a lot of experts came in, even some of the big fours, and say we have experts that will help you in your Y2K. But I said, but Y2K is not here. So how can you be an expert? And by the way, Y2K impacts so many things across the globe, so many different systems, so many different processes. How are you expert in everything? You see, the term is very loosely used. And just like COVID, I already getting calls from people. Oh, we are COVID experts. We can help you to bring the business 35% up and 25% here and help you to survive. Please understand, there are no business experts. That's it. You just work, and I will tell you what we need to do after this, okay? Let's move on. So business as usual will be this. Your new norm will be this. You got to understand whether you're going to do a hybrid business model. That means you are a brick and mortar, but you're going to be online as well. You're going to do digital, all right? So you're going to mixture of both. Because at the moment your hybrid has your brick and mortar has an issue, but you can't stop. You need to make money. You need to think something else, right? So look at a hybrid model. You also need to understand your customer experience. Before, you have all the collections of your customer data, your customer experience, who they are, what they spend, what they buy, what they like. This is the time that data is very, very important. If you do not have that, it is very, very difficult to start a business because you do not have a track to look at your customer experience. Then you can look at your business operations. The new way of doing things will be very different. Yeah, so is a new norm today, all right? Then you're going to look at your business technology. When I say business technology, I do not mean big data, AI, those are given. Business technology means something that you can deploy in the business. And there are areas I'm going to talk about it shortly. And you also need to look at, when you do all this, there are 4 measurements. Always test against 4 measurements. Number 1, sorry, I beg your pardon. Number 1, look at your strategy. Number 2, look at the structure that supports the strategy. Number 3, look at the staffing that supports the structure and the strategy. Number 4, that was number 3. Number 4, look at the system that supports the staffing, the structure, and the strategy. These 4 measurements must exist. If any of them are not there, don't touch. It will not work. Trust me. These 4 pillars are very, very, very important when you do a new setup, new norm. Your strategy to go forward, that means your business models, your structure to support that, your staffing to support that, and last but not least, the system. System doesn't mean your own, but you could be third-party systems from elsewhere, but you must have that, all right? This is what I like to tell you. Progressive makeover versus disruptive makeover. In the old norm, it was a progressive makeover. In other words, you plan, you strategize, you had meetings, or you had everything. Today is disruptive. You no longer have the luxury. So you have to look at a disruptive makeover. You have to make do, you have to change things drastically. The culture change, all the shifts have to come about. Otherwise, it's difficult to move forward. Let's move on. This is the business cycle that I'm sharing with you. Your old norm was one in the yellow. I can just remember there's a yellow circle, and I talked about all your brick and mortar structures in there. All right, forget about it. Now you look at the bottom. Your new norm, your new norm could be your catalog, your mail order systems, could be your social media, using WhatsApp to do ordering. By the way, there's a huge retailer who's making tons of money. I won't mention name and company where they are, but I just go report because I'm asked not to share at the moment. They're using WhatsApp and using what we call chatbot. Conversational chatbot AI with AI built in, solutions from other places, and using social media to do the ordering, to do the payment and all that. And they're making tons of money. In fact, they were thinking they're going to go down, but now they're making tons of money using this out of the norm, the new norm. Web services, mobile shopping, online shopping, all right? If you're in furniture, for example, cut, make, and order. If you're doing with supply chain management, work with the vendors to manage your inventory, for example. If an event management, do event outside, all right? I'm just giving some scenarios here, but obviously the subject is very, very deep. But because of time, I'm just giving some idea as to some of the things you can actually do to start looking at it. But please, very, very important note, because I'll tell you why afterwards. But let me recap some of the points. Number 1, do not rush into an online business without understanding the details and the dynamics of it. Do not rush into it. You need to be very practical when transferring a business to digital. Just because somebody is successful, it doesn't mean it work for you. All right. Number three, your staff are your assets, but you also need to be realistic about what you need to do. You don't have to keep everybody, and this is all our desire to do, keep everybody. But sometimes you have to make a very, very, very hard call, and you need to do that if you need to survive. All right. I'm not saying anything out of the norm. I'm just telling you these are the reality of life. Just because your neighbor is successful, it is not a recipe for, automatic success. It won't work. Trust me. If that worked, then we just copy everybody and everybody will be happy. Everything honky dory. No, it doesn't work that way. Just remember. Next one. Sometimes technology creates more problems than it can handle. At the moment, everybody's excited about technologies, and some guy making noise around the corner. Oh, use big data, use AI. We can do this in the virtual reality. We can. But listen. Look at what happened in Australia. Australia wanted to start their first digital mall. They have never done it. That was almost about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. They wanted to start digital mall. First time, but it has never worked. Why? There are many issues I can't discuss in this time because of time, but let you know that sometimes technology doesn't always solve problems. It creates more problems than you can handle. Changing hands to be digital is all right, but ensure you got it right. You want to change your hands and you go into digital, it's okay. It's a good way to do it, and please go forward. I encourage you, transform your business, but you need to be honest about it and make sure you got it right? Do not engage in new development unless your business is so unique. What I'm trying to say here is that do not call up and say, hey, IT service company, come here. I want to develop this. Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? It is not the time. This is a time of jumpstart. It is not from the beginning, you sit and you start working. No. This is the jumpstart. You have to jumpstart a business. When you jumpstart a business, there are a few rules you have to follow, and I'll come to that shortly. Use established improvement systems for your new business. Please do that. If somebody's using that online platform, they're really successful, you want to go into that, test it, make sure it works in a business model, then deploy it, okay? Very, very important. Disrupt by all means, but don't do it until you lose control of everything. The disruption is a big word that everybody's talking about it, and it's only a process. Disrupt by all means, please do that. Test your models, disrupt it. Test your models, disrupt it. But do not lose control of everything, because you can go crazy, trust me, all right? When in doubt, always seek help. This is where I'm doing mentoring. For example, if you have a problem, you can call me and say, Stan, I'm doing this, I'm not advocating you call me, I'm not suggesting call me, but I'm giving an example. He said, I'm doing this, what do you think? What are your thoughts? And do you know anything out there, what's happening? So these are mentoring, okay? Mentoring is very important, because then if you're in the unknown, then you want to be in the known. This is where things happen, all right? There's a slide I'm going to talk about disruption shortly. Remember this, all roads leads to the digital future. Like it or not, at some point, you cannot say, I'm not going to go digital. You have to go, because as the future moves, all roads leads to digital future. You must start now, all right? Use this opportunity to, and use COVID as a catalyst for you to make that change. Common grounds, make sure you look at the technology platform, don't develop new one. Make sure you look at the payment gateway that is someone that you can negotiate, because this will be part and parcel when you go digital, you need to have payment. You want to make sure that the onboarding services you can deploy, especially when you got a lot of stocks inventory, you want to move that around, okay? You also want to make sure you have reliable delivery services that you can depend on when you want to deliver services and goods, whether it's inventory items, whether it's food. At the moment, the delivery services are through the roof. They're charging arm and a leg, but I suppose that's because everybody becomes an opportunist when there are disasters. This is common, right? You may also want to do, maybe you want to keep, you are brand conscious. You may even talk to mobile applications who are successful out there. You may want to do white label. White label means that while the application is ABC, but on top, your brand could be XYZ, so that when a customer looks at it, oh, it looks like an XYZ application, but actually it's an ABC application. So this is white labeling. You can do that too, all right? White label. Depends what you want to do with it. Look at cloud services who are reliable, where you also don't want to spend too much money looking at things, because you want to be able to ride on technology that's already out there, that's proven, that's running. So you don't want to start building your own, start deploying your own, because unless you have deep pockets, you have a longer runway, maybe. But even then I say, not a good idea, because by the time you reach the end of the runway, to complete the launch, you'll be probably far behind or somewhat in great competition or in the red ocean for that matter. Make sure you talk to reliable advisors. Look, I changed the word consultants. I don't like the word consultants. Reliable advisors, service providers, and technology partners who you can depend on and talk very openly, those who you trust and understand. All right? Last but not least, look at success stories and models. What made them successful? You may not be able to duplicate everything they do. Others, everybody will be rich and everybody will be doing the same thing. But learn from some of the things they did, which you can harness on to make your ground stronger. All right? Last but not least, make sure that whatever you do, look at the staffing and talents. That's very key. All right. I'm going to come to the last couple of slides, so bear with me. I think 2 more left, and then we can finish this up. Disrupted. Let me show you what happened. There are a number of brands that are recognized worldwide, and I'm sure you know Pepsi, right? You know Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola. But a lot of people do not know that actually, although Pepsi-Cola is one of the current, one of the most recognized brands in the world, and so is Pepsi as well. But there was another brand which a lot of people forgot, but they were the first one who came in. There was Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper was the first one who came into the market, and they were ruling the market. But because they decided that after some time, who cares? You climb, and then become plateau, and you go. If you do not innovate to go up and you stay, after a while it will go down. If the curve go down, it is very difficult to climb up. That's happened to Dr. Pepper. Of course, Coke took advantage, and of course, Pepsi became a competitor to Coke. I'm not going to talk about Coca-Cola or Pepsi here. I want to talk about this particular brand that everybody knows about it, Kodak, one of the world's most recognized brands, right? Kodak. In fact, when I take pictures, sometimes I say, hey, let's have a Kodak moment. See, the name's still stuck in your head, Kodak. Why I'm choosing 1998? Because it's very significant. Kodak came into the business in early part of 1980s, and they wanted to develop, Eastman and Strong were the people that developed this, set up this company, and they wanted to do film and all that. But before that, they had another follower which they didn't recognize. They thought nobody can compete with them. So Fujifilm I'm putting 1998 because this is a very important year. In 1998, Fujifilm from nowhere. In fact, Fujifilm was established way back in 1934. They wanted to make films and they wanted to do this. So they were just happy-go-lucky doing. Then suddenly they realized that, hey, Kodak is now is a world leader. I need to really fight against Kodak because there's nobody else. So they fought against Kodak. But then out of the blues in 1998, this guy came up, Shutterfly. Shutterfly was not even in the film business, not at all. Kodak and Fujifilm were. But look at how disrupted looks to you. Let me just give you some facts here. 1998, they had 66% of the market share and 145,000 employees globally, right? Fujifilm, excuse my expression. Fujifilm became the #1 competitor in film to Kodak. By the way, Shutterfly didn't even exist in 1998. Why? Because Shutterfly came in being in 1999. They were observing what Kodak and Fujifilm was doing. And what they did in 1999, they said, hey, you got all the old photographs, right? You want to make souvenirs, you want to make gifts. Give us all the old photographs. We'll make books for you. We'll make souvenirs for you. And everybody started to follow. So they disrupted the whole business, which Kodak could have done it, and Fujifilm could have done it. But Shutterfly took the lead because they saw this was an avenue or this was an opportunity that these two were not doing. So they went underneath it and they took the market by storm. Let's look at some numbers. I'm talking about today. Today is not today. Today is basically, I'm talking about 6 years ago. By the way, Kodak did went bankruptcy, but they came back. And today they are still in business, but they're doing a lot of things like in security, in blockchain, and doing other things. All right, but not many, not recognized really, to be honest. Although we know the brand, but in terms of film, no. Get this. In 1999 rather, they had 50.5 million market cap globally. Fujifilm had 8B market cap, right? And look at what happened to Shutterfly, 1.1B market cap. Suddenly they even overtook Kodak and they are chasing Fujifilm. Of course, I'm not talking about today. Here's today's relevance in terms of what happened. But my subject is not to discuss about Kodak, Fujifilm, and Shutterfly, but to give you what disruption really means, how you can disrupt your business. Even you can disrupt your own business, do something very different, and think about that opportunity, especially in a time like this, all right? Let's move on. my last slide. I like this character because this character has given me some interesting truths. And I hope when you go back today, you take this back with you and hope that you become a Christopher Columbus in your own right. In your own right. Christopher Columbus had 3 truths. I like this and always share this. And some of you have heard this story before, but let me share this with you. Number 1, by the way, he was a sailor. He was, sorry, I beg your pardon. He wasn't a sailor. He was an explorer. Born out of Genoa with a Spanish and Italian parentage. He moved to Lisbon, and then finally he moved to Spain. And Ferdinand II and the Queen gave him a boat and a present and asked him to explore because they were thinking of spices. And he always thought that by going the Atlantic way, he would reach China. That was his idea, and wanted to go to the Far East and to pick up trade. That was his intent. But here's what happened. When he started his journey, he did not know where he was heading before he left. Truth number 1. Think about you're disrupting a business. He did not know where he was heading before he left. Truth number 2. He did not know where he was when he arrived. By the way, there's a disruption, there's a long dispute about whether he actually discovered America, but I'll talk about it shortly a little bit more. Okay, number 3. He did not know where he had been when he returned. After he came back, by the way, he had 3 journeys in the Atlantic. Atlantic is one of the worst oceans that you can ever sail. It has all the things you think about, all the disasters. And by the way, it's the home of the Titanic as well, right? But along the way, he discovered major geographies by chance. See the word I said, by chance. He first arrived in the Dominic Islands. He thought Cuba was China, and he sailed along. He passed along the Americas, but he really did not really land in the US. But anyway, after him, this was in the 1498, but in 1641, then of course came Peter Stuyvesant who founded New York. That's a different discussion. But why was he so successful? How can you just sail the Atlantic without knowing where you're going? When you arrive, you don't know where you are. You know there's some land, some natives, and you thought that Cuba was even China. And when he came back, you don't know where he had been, but he had 3 journeys. Why was he able to keep everything in perspective? You know, sailing that ocean is not keep. By the way, he wasn't a true sailor, he was just an explorer. He has some traits, no doubt. But here are his strength, number 1. His success factor was the following. He had leadership alignment. He was able to lead it. He was able to lead the people, lead the process, lead the journey. He had a strategic alignment with him that he was able to strategize the whole thing. He had people alignment, very, very important factor. Last but not least, you remember how many days, how many nights you're going to be there, how about the food and the water, and keep people sane in the boat. It's not going to be easy, right? He had also had an operational alignment. So these were the 4 qualities he had that make him a winner in that sense. Make him. So the thoughts that I'm going to leave behind with you is that whatever it is today, be a Christopher Columbus in your own right. Look at what your business is doing. Look at how some of the things that I just spoke about, how you can disrupt your business. Look at some of the issues that you're facing at the moment. By the way, issues will always be there. And one thing I'd like to leave with you, cutting costs doesn't mean you're making profitable. Cutting costs simply means that you are just cutting for a temporary period, but there's no growth. Nothing is happening. You got to think of the growth factor, right? How can you grow? And look at that from that angle. All right. So with that, all that said, I just want to really appreciate your indispensable time that you spent this evening with me. I hope I've given you enough, and I hope I shared with you enough so that at least you've taken back. I'd be more than happy to take some questions right now. And thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Stan. Let's give him a big round of applause. Yeah, I'm sure he's thirsty now.
I am.
I remember 2 weeks ago, Stan, you called me one night. You talk about all these examples, some key success factor, leadership elements, alignment, strategic alignment, people alignment, operational alignment, the story
Right.
of Kodak,
Yeah.
Fujifilm, Christopher Columbus.
Yes.
You know, so I thought you basically explained the entire presentation tonight, but that was to me the only audience. So after that, I told Stan and say, hey, let's get this done up, and do a proper session. So as I was sitting through the 1 hour, there were particularly no person left the room. Huh? No person left the room.
Oh,
I
okay.
think they are all, yeah, their attention was just glued to your slides, to your presentation, and to your content.
Please forgive me too,
Yeah.
because sometimes when you are presenting in a stage, it's different feeling. when you're sitting down explaining, I'm not a person that can sit down and explain a lot of things and present, but this is a frustration I had. But under the circumstances, I had to change myself too, that I must learn how to sit and present. And so I'm practicing and I did that. And so I made a bit of change. So I hope that that came across to you as well. So from the bottom of my heart, I hope that you have taken some of the knowledge that I shared. Okay, I'm open to questions now. Anybody has questions, I'll take it.
Yes, yes. Yeah. We move on to question and answer time.
Okay.
So far, there's no question posted in the chat group.
Yeah.
But we are open for floor questioning. So anyone who would like to raise a question,
raise your hand
unmute
and
your mic.
raise
your hand.
Jaden.
Jaden.
Hi, Stan. Okay, go ahead, Jaden.
You can unmute your mic.
Can you hear me, Stan?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, Jaden. Go ahead, bud.
Fantastic. First and foremost, thank you very much. That was extremely informative, and I was taking screenshots as we went. So thanks very much, and I'll be sure you should be sure to get a few messages from me as well once it's all sunken in. But the question I just wanted to throw out there for you is, as you've rightfully pointed out, this is tough times, uncharted waters. I particularly like your comments about Christopher Columbus. But in this situation, do you have any tips for any brands, retailers, businesses, SMEs, etc., to manage anxiety and from a management perspective to keep our cool when we're dealing with the team and when we're dealing with business on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point. Excellent point. One of the things the point that I made earlier about is being a change agent. Remember on one of my slides, change agent and being someone that needs to lead the team. But sometimes when you are in the same boat, it is difficult to think out of the box because you are overwhelmed with so many issues and you don't even know whether that's going to work for you. And one of the factors that's going to cause a bit of fear in you is that you're already losing money at the moment. The tap is running, right? The money is flowing out. Now you're going to start something new. How is that going to work? So there's some level of anxiety and stress. You're absolutely correct. In that scenario, sometimes it's good to engage someone who understands stress, management stress, and maybe bring them into the equation of discussion and talk and say, this is what's going to happen and this was going to, so allow that. No, there's no yes, no answer here, Jaden, but I would do that. I would engage somebody and even mentoring. Mentoring is very, very key. And sometimes I think you have an advantage because MRCA do have this task force where you can engage one or two of them. I'm actually in the task force as well. So if you really need to talk to someone and understand and get some idea, just to get a feel for things, then you have to do your own test. You have to do your own, because we do not know the business model or your approach or what's in your thought, okay, in your thought process. So to answer your question in short, yes, do engage with parties that deal with stress management. Understand that because this is one of the key. At this juncture, almost all of us we have anxiety and stress.
Okay, thanks, Stan.
You're welcome.
I'll have a think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to add to the point raised by Stan about the task force, the full name for the task force is called MRCA MCO Action Bureau, or in short, MMAB. We are opening up for a town hall session this coming 7 May, Thursday. Time is 8:30 p.m. So I will get my team to flash the information which is open to anyone in any trade to join. So you can see who are inside the task force. Of course, Stan is inside. Among the close to 30 numbers of retail brands from one of the premium largest brand like Valiram Group, to our Exxon Group, to Mydin Group, and also to KK Mart Group. Yeah, this is the one. Information is found there. Or else you can locate this information on MRCA Facebook. You can click and sign on there.
My
registration open.
If I may add, Simon, if I could,
yes.
I think it's important too that this is just because the question was raised by Jaden just now. I think it's good to take this advantage and also talk to people and understand and share some of your thoughts, because by talking to people, sometimes it breaks the so-called the gaps that you have. You know, I always like the word mentoring. I do not have time to show one particular slide, but let me not even go there. But when you look at opportunities, one of the key factors on opportunities is mentoring. So when you want to look at opportunities, make sure that you have somebody mentor you, or you look for somebody to mentor some of the areas that you are in. Mentor means just talking and understanding, open discussion. Of course, you want to ensure that you have your thought process right first. Don't just talk for the sake of talking, but ask for the sake of asking, so that whatever you ask is something that you can use in your own business, and how you're going to change this and that. The story I talk about is, there's a particular retailer, I won't mention names. They have completely shut down. They have almost 84 outlets completely shut down because of the government lockdown. Can't even move. Then they decided that, hey, while I'm shutting down, I have my stock, I have my items. How can I then, what can I use? What technology? And what they did was they engaged a chatbot, they engaged WhatsApp, some of the social media, and they started using that. And while they're asleep, the robot is actually selling on their behalf. The chatbot is selling on their behalf, collecting payments and doing, oh my goodness, the business just went through the roof. And now they're using that as a thinking of becoming the main part of the business, rather than, you know, the brick and mortar where they have all over the place. So looking at a hybrid model, that's why I was saying just now, I can't tell you, please use this. I can't tell you, don't use that, but you need to know what your models are. But whatever it is, you have to disrupt. You have to disrupt, because the road is leading to the digital future. So you have to look at things, how you can change. Whether you're a small or a big player, end of the day, doing a little by little will lead you to a bigger picture. That would be my advice.
Oh, okay, good.
Any questions, guys? Any more questions
Yeah,
I can address?
Is Alisa back?
Hi, Stan.
Hi.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot about having data, like, for a business that has not been collecting data all this while. How do you suggest for ways that we can start doing so?
Well, that's a very, very good question. And the reason why I touched that point data was, at the moment, if I want to give you a scenario a little bit back here, if I was going to do my business about disruptions, I cannot just blindly do things, because I need to really know what I will be up against. If I go this way, who am I targeting? If I go that way, who am I targeting? If I'm going straight, am I going to be affecting myself? But because of the lack of data that I do not have in front as a visibility to my point of how shall I say, execution, then I'm going to be walking in the dark. I'm going to fill in the dark and test and try, which is not a good idea you want to do, because once you go, people got to know, hey, this guy didn't happen, or you come back again, didn't happen. So you don't want to do that. You want to start with the right footing. So data has to be something that you rely on. And by the way, if you haven't collected the data, and that's why my earlier slide I talked about, when you want to do all these things, you've got to make sure that you have that information so that you can start on a footing, whether you're doing disrupting your business, whether you're going to do digital, or even going to do go back to your brick and mortar for that matter. So the point is important. So what I suggest you do right now is that whatever data you have at the moment, even if you have it in bits and pieces, try to see whether you can organize the data. And if you don't have the data, but if you know by chance, by memory that you, for example, I'm talking about customers, right? And let's say you know me, you can say that, Stan, I need you to be in my database, but I don't have you. So can I create something that I can put you in my database and then work through word of mouth, for example, work through other means to build the data. But you have to start from somewhere if you don't have it done it. I know retailers who have done business for many, many years, the good old days. They don't really care. When you tell them, you got to have your data, you got to have your customers, you got to know the customers. Oh, by the way, when you talk about CRM, you got to understand, that's another big discussion about customers, right? Because you got CRM, you got CIS, you got all the other stuff. Customer information, if you have never used it before and you don't really care about it, you only worry about the loyalty, how much they spend, I give them coupons, all that. This is a time that you're going to struggle, because those will mean a lot to you. If I'm going to start my new business, I need to know who my customers were, and I need to put them into my new business model. I need to be able to communicate with them. And look, all the loyalty that I did with so-called loyalty, I haven't even received any note or letter. So where does that lead me? It tells me about the quality of that particular brand, right? But you have to start somewhere. If you haven't done it before, start afresh. It's okay, because you need to build from today, and you need to, simple things like you can get simple applications, simple software, just to start building your database. If you're talking about customers, if you're talking about inventories, then you start, if you don't have a system, then look at something that is smaller and cheaper. Look at something that you can go off the cloud, for example, so that you do not have to spend too much money out there because you don't know whether it's going to work or not. So take a route that will put you in lighter mode of your expenditure so that you can go across. But start from somewhere. If you have never done it before, that's okay. But start today. Start building the business the data that you know. Look, data is, if I give you three things, I give you a nuclear weapon, I give you all the armory, and I give you data. Which you think is the most important?
Data.
Oh, sorry. Let me rephrase that. If I give you a nuclear weapon, I give you cash, I give you data. Which you think is the most important? Data, right?
Yep.
Because the US was prepared to pay $25 million just to hear from somebody say, hey, Osama bin Laden is hiding there. I'll give you 25 million. See the piece of data, how valuable it was. So data is very key, because everything is based on data that you built on, so that you do not have aga-aga or guesswork. In fact, I asked one retailer there once, how do you mark down your products? What kind of tactical move that you make? He says, oh, when I look at the item and it's a bit of dusty, it's time to mark down. Huh? What? I don't want to go into that. Just sharing with you, sometimes people have different techniques. Some people say, hey, gut feel. I need to know. I've been here doing business for 20 years. Hey, my gut feel, I know. It doesn't work. When there's a disaster like this, your gut is also out of control. You can't disrupt. I hope I answered that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
There's no more question. Then
No more
we
questions,
have to
sir?
count down. We have to count down. Maybe have to do a Kodak moment.
Yeah.
A good picture.
Maybe everybody can put their photographs up, can do a Kodak moment, so we can take a picture of everybody. So that'll be great. If you can turn all your cameras on, then we'll take a picture of everybody. That'd be great. That'd be nice. Once again, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate it so much. Yeah, someone just said Kodak business is dead. It's absolutely correct. They're coming back with different things. Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
All right. If not, thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Have a rest well, and have a great day tomorrow. Thank you so much for your time. Sincerely appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.